Detecting an AWS account compromise is paramount for maintaining the security and integrity of your cloud environment. One significant method to achieve this is by identifying key indicators in CloudTrail logs, especially when it comes to stolen API keys. CloudTrail logs provide detailed records of account activity related to actions across your AWS infrastructure. By analyzing these logs, you can uncover patterns or anomalies that may suggest unauthorized access or misuse. This information is invaluable for promptly addressing security breaches and reinforcing your system's defenses. In this slide, we begin our introduction by highlighting the significance of securing cloud environments. With the ever-growing dependence on cloud infrastructures, ensuring the safety and security of these environments is of paramount importance. AWS CloudTrail logs come into play as an invaluable forensic tool in this context. The relevance of CloudTrail logs cannot be overstated. They are essential for detecting any unauthorized access, which is pivotal for maintaining compliance and bolstering your overall security posture. By closely monitoring and analyzing these logs, you can promptly identify and address potential security breaches, ensuring your cloud operations remain secure and reliable. When analyzing CloudTrail logs, it's essential to pay attention to key indicators that can signal potential security incidents. This includes unusual API calls and access patterns, such as a sudden spike in API requests or unauthorized use of the root account. Additionally, anomalous IAM activity, such as suspicious creation of access keys or unexpected patterns in role assumptions, should also be monitored. Being vigilant in these areas can help to detect and mitigate potential breaches in your cloud infrastructure effectively. In this slide, we focus on unusual API calls and access patterns, specifically looking for spikes in API requests. It's important to monitor for sudden, uncharacteristic surges in API activity, which could indicate unauthorized access or potential security breaches. You should also check for requests coming from unusual IP addresses, as they may signal suspicious activity. An example command for this type of monitoring is AWS CloudTrail lookup events, lookup attributes, attribute key equals event name, attribute value equals describe, dash max results 10. This command helps you query CloudTrail logs for API events that match a specific pattern, such as operations that start with describe. By continuously monitoring these patterns, you can promptly detect and address any abnormal behaviors in your AWS environment. In this slide titled Unauthorized Use of Root Account, we are focusing on identifying potential security breaches involving the root account in AWS environments. The root account holds significant power, and therefore, unauthorized actions associated with it are significant red flags. Key indicators of unauthorized use include API calls made with root account credentials and any changes to account-level settings. Monitoring these signs can help detect unauthorized access early and prevent potential damage. To investigate, you can use the provided AWS CloudTrail command. This command filters events to identify actions taken by the root account. Using AWS CloudTrail lookup events attributes, attribute key equals username, value equals root, dash max results 10 allows you to list up to 10 events specifically tied to root account activity. By executing and analyzing these results, you can determine if there were any unauthorized or suspicious actions performed using the root credentials. Now, let's focus on anomalous IAM activity. One key indicator to watch for is the suspicious creation of access keys. If you notice new access keys being created for IAM users, that's an activity to monitor closely. Particularly, be alert if these newly created keys are used immediately after their creation. This could indicate unauthorized access or malicious intent. To investigate this, you can use the following command: bash AWS CloudTrail lookup events dash lookup attributes, attribute key equals event name, attribute value create access key, max results 10. This command helps you locate events involving the creation of access keys. It's essential to identify and respond to such activity promptly to maintain the security of your AWS environment. In this slide, we will focus on role assumption patterns within your AWS environment. Detecting unusual role assumptions is instrumental in identifying potential security breaches. Here are some key indicators to watch for. Unusual or frequent assume role API calls. A high number of role assumptions can be a red flag, suggesting misuse or unauthorized access attempts. Role assumptions followed by inconsistent actions. Actions that do not align with common operational patterns post-assumption can indicate malicious behavior. To identify these patterns, you can use a command like the following example. AWS CloudTrail lookup events, lookup attributes, attribute key, event name, attribute value, assume role, max results 10. This command lets you query AWS CloudTrail to find recent assume role events, helping you monitor and investigate any anomalies in role usage. Monitoring these patterns is key in maintaining the integrity of your IAM setup. In this section, we'll focus on anomalous data access and movement. It's essential to monitor for unusual access to S3 buckets that typically aren't accessed. Watch out for large-scale data transfers during non-business hours, as these could indicate unauthorized activities. To keep track of such activities, we can use the following example command. Bash AWS CloudTrail lookup events, lookup attributes, attribute key equals event name, attribute value, list buckets, max results 10. This command lets you look up events related to listing buckets, helping identify any unusual or suspicious access patterns. Understanding these patterns can help mitigate potential security risks in your AWS environment. As we continue, let's focus on detecting data exfiltration attempts within your AWS environment. Indicators of such activity include large data transfers to unknown IPs and the usage of AWS Data Sync or S3 transfer acceleration. These actions can often signify unauthorized data movement. To detect these activities, you can use commands like shell AWS CloudTrail lookup-events, lookup-attributes, attribute key event name, attribute value, put object, max results 10. This command helps you identify events where data might have been moved out of your controlled environment, allowing you to take necessary mitigation steps. Keep an eye on these events to secure your AWS infrastructure against data exfiltration threats. On this slide, we're focusing on identifying unexpected security group modifications, another potential indicator of unauthorized activity in your AWS environment. Key indicators to watch for include changes to existing security group rules and the creation of new security groups with overly permissive rules. To track these modifications, you can use command line tools to query CloudTrail logs. For instance, you might run a command like AWS CloudTrail lookup-events, lookup-attributes, attribute key equals event name, attribute value, authorized security group ingress, max results 10. This example checks for events where ingress rules are authorized, which can indicate changes you need to investigate. Understanding these indicators is essential for maintaining a secure AWS setup and promptly responding to potential threats. When addressing unexpected security group modifications, implementing strong mitigation strategies is essential. First, we must enforce the principle of least privilege. By limiting permissions to only what is necessary for each IAM user, we minimize potential attack vectors. Next, it's vital to implement multi-factor authentication, MFA. Requiring MFA for all IAM users, especially administrators, adds an extra layer of security. In addition, regularly rotating and auditing access keys ensures that any compromised keys are quickly replaced and that all key usage is accounted for. Enabling and monitoring CloudTrail and GuardDuty across all regions helps detect suspicious activity promptly. Lastly, using AWS Config for compliance monitoring helps ensure that your security best practices are continuously followed, allowing you to detect and rectify any deviations. These strategies together create a robust defense against unauthorized security group modifications. Let's summarize the key points we've covered. Firstly, we discussed the importance of enforcing the principle of least privilege, limiting permissions to what is absolutely necessary. Next was implementing multi-factor authentication, MFA, especially for administrative users. Regular rotation and auditing of access keys are also critical practices. We then explored the enabling and monitoring of CloudTrail and GuardDuty across all regions, and using AWS Config for compliance monitoring. In conclusion, it's clear that vigilant monitoring is essential for identifying key indicators of AWS account compromise. Adopting a proactive security posture alongside continuous improvement and monitoring efforts is imperative for maintaining robust security. For further reading, consider SAN 509 and relevant AWS documentation to deepen your understanding. In this slide, We have compiled a list of references that will aid in further understanding the topics we've covered regarding AWS security. Firstly, the AWS CloudTrail documentation is an excellent resource for comprehending how to monitor your AWS environment. It details the configurations and uses of CloudTrail, which is indispensable for tracking and logging account activity. Next, the AWS IAM Best Practices Guide offers comprehensive advice on managing identities and permissions. Ensuring that only authorized users have access to your resources is pivotal for maintaining a secure environment. Lastly, the SANS 4509 course, Enterprise Cloud Forensics, provides an in-depth exploration of forensic practices in cloud environments. This course is highly recommended for those interested in augmenting their knowledge and skills in cloud forensics. These references are invaluable for reinforcing your understanding and helping you maintain a robust security posture within your AWS accounts. On this slide, we will explore the principles behind effective incident response in AWS. We'll start by discussing the foundational components, such as establishing a dedicated incident response team and ensuring regular training for all members. Following that, we'll touch on the importance of continuous monitoring and logging, which are essential for identifying potential security incidents. Next, we'll cover how important it is to have automated response mechanisms in place to mitigate threats quickly. Finally, we'll look into best practices for communication during an incident, ensuring all stakeholders are informed and actions are coordinated seamlessly. This comprehensive approach helps ensure a robust and resilient incident response strategy in your AWS environment.